environments. When these three areas are created, then we can start, Sofina, moving towards the mindset shift. Our young people experiencing positivity or just problems. Hawa vijana ni shida tu. These young people are just problems. We need to migrate to that. Give them a positive experience. Are we accompanying them with love and care? The relationship we build with young people, is it something we can say it is positive, or we have a barrier? Allow me to even go further to say, when these three areas are captured effectively with meaningful youth engagement, not the tokenism, not the cosmetic engagement that we do with young people, then, and only then, are we likely to have responsible and accountable global citizens. I'm underlining these words, responsible and accountable global citizen, because we have meaningfully engaged them. They are not just beneficiaries, but they are participants in their own process of change. So that's the important foundation that we are laying when we talk about positive youth development. And it builds on 4 pillars. That the young people want to belong. There's a sense of belonging. And this is built even in our own houses, in our own homes, in our own schools, in our own institutions. It's built around mastery. And this is the acquisition of knowledge and skills that they need. And that's what we are doing a lot in schools in that process, Sofina. And then it's built on independence. Independence, that the young person is able to make judgment on their own. And finally, then there is, and we'll see it later, when the change that they're looking for in the world, that they're able to give their time, their resources, and I'm sure in this panel there will be that kind of moment. Are young people generous? When this is built on the positive youth development, Sofina, then let me share the 6 C's that are the outcomes of positive youth development. And these 6 C's are very important. And I think I had the earlier on, the Master of Ceremony talk about, very important, the character. But character will come much later. The most important thing is confidence. It's not easy, even for me, to stand here and speak. It requires confidence. It's not a miracle. We must invest in the confidence building of our young people so that then they are able to take positions without worry. Then we develop the competencies. And that's why they go to school. They develop the competencies. They develop care. The generosity heart I was talking about. And critically is a character. And that character is what we look outward and say, wow, that's a good man. This is a good lady. What are you seeing is a character. But this character is critical later in our lives. And finally, and the most important I love, is contribution. What is the contribution that the young people are making in the world? It's because they have gone through the process. They have generosity, they have belonging, then they are making contributions. Later on, I'll be talking about what I did when I was 27, 28 years old, because I went through the process. So it's important that, Sofina, we look at that, element of what are the outcomes of the journey. And maybe as I conclude, Sofina, something exciting is happening, and it was actually happening yesterday in Paris. The UNESCO Global Convention on Higher Education was meeting in Paris. And there are 22 countries that have ratified, and some have accepted that protocol that also binds towards making higher education accessible to young people. And what UNESCO is saying, that 236 million students are enrolled in higher education globally. And 6 million out of this are studying abroad. And I like the question you posed earlier on, where would you want to study? But already some of us are among the 6 million who will be wanting to study abroad or somewhere Abroad doesn't mean, of course, it could be Uganda here, it could be Tanzania, it could be Rwanda. And the interesting part of this conversation, Sofina, is how then are we facilitating the process of young people to migrate, to move to other parts of the country or the world to study? Are there barriers? Yes, there are enough barriers. And we shall be coming to the barriers later on to see how then we overcome these barriers. So this is what I feel strongly, Sofina, in your question. Let's focus on young people, but more so is our mindset of the elders to shift. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gichuki. I don't know, I just want to pick it from where you've left, speaking about what we can do as individuals, but you even mentioning UNESCO, and I want us to move now into institutions with a specific focus on UNICEF. So Winnie, I think one thing that COVID-19 revealed to us is that it's possible to achieve education remotely. And in the able to online teaching to be able to access education. So I want you to share with us, as a representative of UNICEF Kenya, one of the most recognized online education bodies, what is that step we can take as individuals? I think you said when we raised our hands, you're like, I can already tell who can get a scholarship, but also as stakeholders, what can we implement to access schooling globally without travel? And really, in your explanation, just give us examples of opportunities that UNICEF Kenya offers to students to advance their learning online.
Thank you, Sofina, for that. Picking from where you've just stated about UNICEF, one of the best things that we as an organization consider is diversity and inclusion. And I think this is one of the most important things that each organization should be striving to achieve. And so if you look at how we drive our agenda, it is very specific in terms of ensuring that everybody and everyone can actually access online education wherever they are. And so, just like you mentioned, before COVID, UNICEF has been around for like 10 years, but then we set up offices in Kenya in 2017. And I remember the first times when we were having a conversation with a lot of organizations in terms of how to partner together to ensure that every person can be able to access education. People were still wary about online education. And it didn't take time, and COVID came, and hula, you know what happened. Everything was in disarray. The government was frustrated. Institutions were frustrated. It was the best time for UNICEF. We had a lot to do on our hands. And right after UNICEF, that disrupted a lot of things, even in terms of the workspace. So it didn't only interfere with the education sector, it interfered with how people work and all that. And so as UNICEF, we believe that diversity is a fact that we cannot avoid. But again, it's very deliberate. And most of the time, we may not find a way or how to move around it. But then inclusivity has to be very intentional. And I think as an organization, we ensure that each person, wherever they are seated, you can be able to, study wherever you are. People were raising hands right here when they're saying, I like to study in Kenya. And of course, Kenya has one of the best education systems. We still brag about that everywhere in the world. But then again, there's this feeling of having to have an internationally recognized degree. And so how do we do that? We make it happen for each and every person because we bring the school right to you. So as an organization, coming up with a strategy to ensure that your life is not interrupted. You have jobs, you are holding a family wherever you are, you have things to run. So most of the people sitting in this space today do not have the privilege to probably have a 2-year break to go and undertake their studies, because that would mean that you have to stop working or stop earning, and yet you have a family. So how UNICEF is trying to drive this is by ensuring that you can be able to, number one, acquire a scholarship. And this is in very many dimensions. We've been partnering with different organizations, Global Peace Foundation being one of them. And Mr. Juma was privileged to be in one of our events that was last month. We were talking about AI. And so we were asking, are you AI ready as a person? Because the education system is really changing every day. We cannot sit and just think that things will just happen. Somebody has to take the initiative. And so as an organization, we have ensured that the online platform that we have, the VLE, that is the virtual learning environment, is a system that is very accessible to everyone. It is as simple as having an app on your phone. So like our UNICAF students have downloaded an application that is a UNICAF virtual learning environment whereby they can study in whichever part of the world they are. So in summary of what we are doing today is that we ensure that everyone can be able to access generous scholarships. And number two, they can be able to study online wherever they are. We ensure that we also come into partnership with a lot of organizations to make it easy for those people. And Mr. Gishuki was talking about the youths here. And one of the things most of the time I visit spaces where youths are there, the number one question that they usually ask is, how am I going to get a scholarship? And that is not just on the youth, it's to all of us, because upskilling is a fact that we have to accept. You cannot just sit and think that your job is there to stay and you will not upskill. And the biggest question also we were discussing in the AI, will AI take our jobs? No, it will not take our jobs, but it will replace those people who have not actually taken the step further to upskill. This is where organization, we are very keen sure that even as you study, even as you work, even as you grow, you can be able to upskill and at the same time access this degree. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Winnie. And you asked a question, are you AI ready? And I saw Mr. Teji just smiling and nodding his head. So I know, Mr. Teji, you said we shouldn't look at your past, but just for the context of the next question I'm going to ask, it's important you all realize that Mr. Teji has 45 years experience in technology industry, having worked with what we call the big industry, IBM. So I want you to share with us, Mr. Teji. I know you said we're looking towards the future, and later I'll be asking you a question on FEAST. But I want you to share with us, what are some of the global trends that you have observed in the technology industry that can be incorporated and adopted in the education, information, and innovation landscape? And just to put this into perspective, when we were speaking with you earlier, you talked about being disruptive. So just looking forward to your response on what's that disruptive approach that we should adopt.
Thank you, Safina. I am being very careful in approaching this subject. And it's not because I am afraid of broaching this topic. I don't want to offend anyone who is heavily invested in the way things are done today. Let me disruptive technology in a way that you have seen and have subconsciously accepted. And then let me bring you to where we need to be in education. There was a company back in the mid-1990s that came and said, we want to get rid of all the middle pieces of publishing to getting something into the hands of the consumer. We want to shrink the supply chain. How do we do that? And so they said, if we take desktop publishing and we take it directly from the author and we publish it directly on a platform that we own, and we take it directly from the consumer ordering that piece, and then we deliver it directly to the consumer on demand, prepaid. What do we get rid of? We get rid of the distributor. We get rid of all the publishing companies. We take out their overhead. We now take their whole marketing arm, and we now make that into a situation of where we control it at the lowest cost. And then we take our advertising to the Super Bowl and we say, Amazon coming to a neighborhood near you soon. They don't tell you what Amazon is. And everybody said, oh, what's Amazon? That later year, Amazon had more book sales than every book, store, brick and mortar. And we went to Borders Book and said, have you ever thought of selling your wares online? People want to come in. They want to flip through the pages. 18 months later, they were out of business. Barnes & Noble said, nah, I don't think that'll work. They're struggling yet today. That's disruptive technology. Netflix. That's disruptive technology. Education, still doing the same thing for 300 years. And we write papers on it. We do studies. We publish, because that's what we do as educators. We do learning methods. We do matrices. We do Rubik's to measure. And what do we do? That's a new idea. So let's take the old and twist it to fit. And what do we end up with? A remix of the same. And then we say, let's change it again. And we think by doing the same thing over and over, we're going to end up with different results. What did Einstein call that? Insanity. Why did I raise my hand when I said, stay in Kenya? Why did I raise my hand when I said, stay on the continent? Do you know how many people from the continent are now leaders of industry in America? Do you know a Kenyan is mayor of New York City? Wow. Are we exporting our talent overseas? When we have the educational systems now here that are saying, find your way. Now is the time, the opportunity to break the box, to say, let's figure a way forward with disruptive technology to take the best minds and have applied learning to make learning more than a didactic lecture and give meaning to people sitting in a classroom who want to be not a biology degree, but a biologist because that is their why. That want to be an engineer, not for an engineering degree, because they want to be an electrical engineer. You find your why at any age, and you will figure out every formula, every curve, every drawing, every lesson on your own. Proof. Read the story about the boy who tamed the wind. With nothing, he created a windmill that then created electricity for a pump that then irrigated his father's farm. Read about the boy in Nigeria or Ghana that created the village radio station from scraps out of the trash. Read about people who had nothing and created something that made value to society. Why? They found their why. Read about a 15-year-old boy whose family member died of pancreatic cancer. And because of that why, figured out how to make a sensor that was 3 cents that could detect pancreatic cancer rate in the US. And when he went to college, he did not study that discipline at all, but it was his why. And Johns Hopkins gave him the lab space at age 16 to discover the reason of that why. And he did it 8 years ago. But that sensor has never made it outside to help life on this planet. It is still $800 that still can only detect cancer in stage 4, in which my brother died 2 years ago of. We here on this continent have the ability to rewrite education in an applied way through our universities, through our TVETs, through our high schools, and beyond, even in our villages at any age, because we have a why for a better life, a better way of life, a better quality of life at Maslow's hierarchy of needs at the 2 lowest levels: water, agriculture, clothing, housing, health, education, if we are willing to apply our whys. And it doesn't take a lot.
Wow. So I'll allow that a second to just sink in. And so, Taiji, thank you for that. Because then with my next panelist, talking about the why, I think he comes from a family that discovered the why and conquered at it. So I'd like to invite Joseph Okello to really share with us. And, earlier he was talking, we had a discussion earlier, and, he talked about how the vision began with Makini School. And right now they have progressed to a partner organization called GTTP, that gives youth free education, skills, and inspiration. So Joseph, having been part of this journey, I want you to share with us how it is that, previously Makini School and now GTTP are adopting global standards of education. And, how was your journey? Now this is a real journey of building from what you've got. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Sofina. Well, I have the misfortune of speaking after these 3 great speakers, but I will do my best. Yeah, so Makini School began in 1978 as a kindergarten or a preschool with 7 students. or 7 pupils, I would guess at that age. And the thinking behind Makini School, it was started by my parents, the late Dr. Pius Okello and Dr. Mary Okello. And at that time, if we can go back to 1978 and look at the landscape of education in Kenya, or specifically in Nairobi, there were very few private schools. And the reason for that may be that there was no need for them, or there was no perceived need. In the 70s, it was deemed that the education system was adequate, and that that was provided for by the government. However, the private schools that did exist were faith-based schools primarily. So those were schools that were run by mainly the Catholic and Anglican churches. If you look at the Christian-based schools, there were a few Islamic schools and also Hindu-based, which we would say form the major religious groups in our country. The reason for starting Makini School, from the perspective of the founder, was that in the late 70s and the early 80s, Kenya had the highest birth rate in the world, alongside with Nepal. It was estimated to about 4%. And so it was clear, or maybe it was clear to them, that at one point, there's going to be so much pressure and that the government would not be able to provide adequate education for all. And that's when private schools, I would say, started mushrooming, or when Makini started. From my perspective, when Makini School started, I was young, I was 9 years old. I like to joke with my siblings that we were evicted from our bedrooms to make room for students who were going to start. So it was a really home-based cottage school, but we wanted Makini School to be a school with a difference, and that the emphasis should not only be on academia, but also bringing out a holistic child, meaning that we want somebody who will be prepared to excel in the world. In the journey going through, private schools, are funded from the tuition they receive from the parents. They get no subsidies from the government and are treated as businesses. So we have to pay our taxes. Taxes are a very emotive issue right now in Kenya, but we have to pay our taxes like everybody else. And it's a challenge. We don't get subsidies on acquisition of land or putting up properties. We have to deal with it from our own resources. So what I witnessed growing up was 2 individuals who were determined to grow an institution that would make a difference in the landscape of education in Kenya. And they made it at great sacrifice. My parents, when they started the institution, were both gainfully employed elsewhere. So my father was a lecturer at the University of Nairobi, and my mother was worked in a bank, in a financial institution. And so they did, you can argue that they had limited experience in the actual, none of them were, well, my father was a lecturer, but he was not a primary or secondary school teacher. And my mother came from the financial institution. But with the skills that they both combined, they saw it helped them. I think the skills they had acquired from their own education helped them build this institution. So Makini grew from, as I said, 7 pupils. And for the 40-year span that we were involved in the business, I worked in Makini School for 20 of those 40 years. So it was a family business. The shareholders were the family members. But one of the principles my parents instilled in us is that we don't want our children to feel entitled. And so all 3 of we're 3 children. We have all worked outside the family business. So I worked for a large multinational for a number of years. And I think that helped me understand my place when I joined the institution. So Dr. Okello, who led the school for most of its existence, together with my father at the time until his demise in 2004, said that the most important thing to her in raising a child is to have a value-based system. Makini School was in existence. We have had 3, we are on our 3rd curricular change since we started the institution in 1978. We had what some people call the 7-4-2-3. Is that what they call it? the O A-level system. We changed to the 844 system, which we had for almost 30 years. And now we've moved to the CBC. And we've seen the school evolve and adapt all through those years. But she said the common thing is that we must have a value-based system where the children learn to have integrity and give them the skills necessary to be citizens of the world. Now, the challenge with private schools, as we look at some, I think the MC said that schools are a great equalizer, or education is a great equalizer. But whereas that is true, education can also be a big contributor to inequality. And we see that. So saying that those who are privileged to go to private schools are the ones who are even most likely to complete education. And that's because of the socioeconomic bracket that they come into. And we're very cognizant of that. Even in Kenya, we see this conflict between private and public schools, especially for private primary schools, where students who are in private public schools want to go to very good public secondary schools. And we have a selection system that can be quite oppressive. How we try to mitigate with that at Makini was, one, we gave a certain percentage of our students full scholarships. So we had a range of scholarships for pupils, and a lot of it was determined by their level of need. So we had scholarships that were some 100%, where the student would not pay any fees. And it was graduated for some who could pay what they could. And in our discovery of doing that over the years, we discovered that people can excel regardless of their socioeconomic background. But the big challenge they have is that they do not have opportunity. And this is the thing that we were trying to rectify. And so the values that we're saying about Makini was giving children an opportunity. When we look back at the 40 years, we can say that we are grateful to God and we're quite gratified in the accomplishments we've seen a lot of the pupils who have come through Makini School. We have seen them excel in very, very different spheres. Some in sports and in a variety of things. And we attribute that to staying true to our values. So that's a brief history of the institution of Makini School. I'll take a few minutes if I can. No? Okay. To talk a little bit about the Global Travel and Tourism Partnership. This is a partnership that was started in the US as a charity. And the whole idea behind this organization was to give students an opportunity to look at their careers and opportunities in travel and tourism and hospitality. Why that industry? One, it is the biggest employer in the world. It employs about 12% of all jobs in the world. Secondly, it has got a lot of mobility. But if we look at travel and tourism, and if I was to ask each one of you here quite frankly and honestly, would you willingly want your children to study in travel and tourism? The answer is no. Travel and tourism is perceived as a backup or a career for those who didn't become doctors and lawyers. But the reality is that the opportunities in travel and tourism are very vast. And they can encompass other careers. You can be a lawyer that specializes only in the travel and tourism. You can be a medic that works only in hotels and in airlines. So we see this opportunity. What we're doing with GTTP is that we're providing free tuition and education within public secondary schools. Our emphasis right now is in public secondary schools that are specifically under-resourced. Because even within public secondary schools, we see a big disparity. We can look at schools like Alliance, and no offense to those who went to Alliance, we can know that it's a very well-resourced school. But if we go to the same Kiambu County, we'll find secondary schools that have very limited access to resources. So we work with them. We've had students go through our program over the last 15 years. We've got at least 5 schools in each county. And many of the students have also gone on to do very great things. So we believe education, yes, can be a great equalizer if we take into the fact that we have to find a way to make the playing field equal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joseph. And I want to appreciate Joseph for taking us to the foundation of it. Speaking about the role that family plays, even in the education sector, speaking about the role that our value systems play when it comes to the education sector. So thank you so much for that. And there's something you mentioned on role modeling by the adult. And Vincent, thank you because you've allowed me to take 2 questions. So if you have any question, please prepare, it will be taking it. But to each of you, as my panelists, I want to give you 1 minute to share, thank you for saying that, but that was the next question, looking at what it is you are doing at an individual level. Mr. Gishuki, I know you are the CEO of Tabasamu Africa and TISA. I think previously we were able to hear from Mr. Teiji, who is the CEO of Feast and Feast Lab, now Kenya. So each and every one of you, in 1 minute, share with us. And, just being aware that this is a platform where we're coming together to see how we can network and learn from each other. So Mr. Gishuki, I'll start with you. What is it you do and how are you creating that change?
Thank you. Are we there? Are you still there? Nice to see you again. You're all moving around the minds, the mindset and getting out of information. That's great. I will not be here today. I will not be smiling here because in my family, in my community, especially my family, we were nicknamed nothing good can come from that family. That's how we grew up. That's the stereotype I grew up. Nothing good can come out of this family. We are 9 of us. I'm the only one who made it to high school, to college. Courtesy of someone I cherish a lot. He's called Father Okumu Stephen. He's in Seattle, US. He took me as his son. He gave me his shoulders. I stepped on. And today, I have reached out to thousands and thousands of young people around the world with 3 key messages. It is possible in inawezekana. It's possible. And that's why I began earlier on by saying it is not about the youth. It's about adults changing their perspective about young people and journeying with them. I founded Transforming Young Stars of Africa, TISA, an NGO, when I was 27 years old. 10 years ago, I handed it over to the young people who were 7 years when it started. They are the ones running the NGO now. I moved on to do other stuff in Tabasamu Africa. And you might be seeing a lot of Africa stuff in there. I'm very passionate about Africa and how Africa can change the world for the better. In fact, when we sang the national anthem of Kenya, East Africa, I was waiting the AU anthem. It's there, both in Swahili and in English. And I wish we could sing it before we close the day, because that's important. Because they say Africa is the tree of life. And we are truly the tree of life. So I spend time with young people. I journey with them. I offer them opportunity at Tabasamu Africa Hub in Kitale, where we go through nature and allow nature to teach us some lessons. Sometimes we struggle with answers. I go to a tree and ask, what's the answer to this question I'm suffering from? Nature gives an answer to everything we are talking about. But the most important part, how do we journey with the young people? That's what I do. Go into their inner depth to find their purpose and design a life dream for them and journey with them. Today, that's what I spend all the time doing. And education is one of the many pillars we have. We believe that education can unlock, but it's not easy also for it to unlock if we do not work around it. It becomes just another purpose of going to school, finishing 8 years, 16 years, and you are done. Then you're asking, who am I? Then why were you in school? Is there something wrong with the education system? Why should I finish and ask, what was I doing? It's why we invest a lot in the non-formal education, the informal education, because lifelong learning is part of us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the final comments from Mr. Teiji.
Praise God. I'm going to be short, sweet, to the point. First Labs Global focuses in research and development in the lower two levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because we understand if human beings cannot reach psychological and physiological safety and security, they'll never be able to reach family, love, and community, and they'll never be able to reach self-actualization. To that end, I think the most important thing today is that we'll be partnering with Global Peace to carry out that mission here in Kenya and on the continent. And that is the most important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Please, let's give another round of applause to my panelists. All right, it's at this juncture that I take questions. Feel free to raise your hand. And I can see a hand at the back. George Mugera from Save the Elephants.
Hi. This goes to Okello, and he has talked about disruptive shifts in education. I would wish to know whether Okello would share this idea that maybe when private schools came to be, was it a platform where it was more of a destructive shift towards like shaping up education from where private schools came to be?
Good. Next question.
Thank you. My name is Moses Wokono. I have a question on the youth empowerment strategy. You talked much about the youth, and I got concerned. You know, we have very good policies about youth empowerment strategy, the integration and the mainstreaming of the youth, interventions into the micro policies and the sectoral interventions. But you've said again, you've walked around the world doing the bits with the youth. Is it not high time that now we come and action this in our own country, because the youth challenges in this country is now enormous? The youth are suffering depression, anxiety, many things, so that maybe we have done our bits outside where we had that space. Why can't we come back? Because the policies are there according to the youth empowerment strategy and the framework, but the actioning part, the real hands on the ground for the youth. On the same vein, we need to come down again on the ground to provide strategic direction to our youth. Because the youth of these days are not the youth of your days. And yeah, our days, I'm not very far from that, but where we are heading to, we might be having a different class of the youth, which will a little bit shock the world going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one more question.
Good morning. Mine actually is not a question, but is to address what Mr. Gichuki has said. My name is Alice Kamunge from Vera Beauty and Fashion Orange. And mine, I want to echo Mr. Gichuki for what you have said. And if we are parents in this room, which I'm a grandparent, we need to listen to what Mr. Gichuki has said, listening to the youth. The bottom line and the answer to all these questions you're asking about the youth, it is because the society has refused to listen. And I give a small example of a young man I met many years ago when I was struggling with life. I met him when I sank into depression, and sank into depression because my parents and my brothers who are educated me refused for me to do what I loved doing. And they wanted me to do what they wanted me to do and to be who they wanted me to be. And when I refused to be who they wanted me to be, I was thrown out of the, it's like I never existed. And I walked on a very cold, lonely path for many years until I came out through that path. What I held so dear to my heart was that light at the end of the tunnel, and I knew that I was following that light I couldn't see at the end of the tunnel, but the path was very lonely. And when I finally came out, I came out with a very, very big institution called Vera Beauty and Fashion College, which is the best in East and Central Africa. But after going through a very lonely, sad, miserable path, where everybody thought I was a failure. When I met this boy, he was out of home by the father because he had gone to Jomo Kenyatta University. He wanted to do agriculture, and then he was refused. He was told he was good for engineering. And when he was registered for engineering, he refused, and he went back home and told the father he wanted to learn how to package sukuma wiki vegetables. And the father couldn't understand, so he threw him out of home, and I found him on Jogoo Road. And I asked him, because I was stunned, I was miserable, I was depressed, I was just lonely. I was looking for someone who was lonely like me, and I was young. That time I was a young girl with 2 children and miserable. So I asked him, I was going to buy vegetables, and asked him, what are you doing there? And he came and told me, what? I'm looking at these vegetables, and every evening I come here to see the vegetables which are being thrown away, the ones which did not sell. And this is what my father does not understand. But cutting the story short, is a story for another day. This boy, out of my miseries and my sadness, I decided to help him walk with me, but I was looking for company. So I asked him, how can I help you to do what you want to do? Because he told me the story of how he has been sent away. It's 1 week since he's left somewhere up Uhuru Market, and he had slept there for 1 week. He told me, I've always wanted to package vegetables. These vegetables which are being thrown away, I can package them. And this is what my father does not understand. But he thinks I want to go and sell vegetables like the women on the marketplace. And then he's telling me, he's calling me gay, that I want to be like a woman. You understand? So what I did, I gave him 1,000. And he went and packaged those vegetables. And the following day, we went to Uchumi with him, and we placed those vegetables at the entrance of Uchumi. And I used to buy them. You know, nobody will buy. So I'll pretend I'm a customer and go and buy, and then I go with them home. And then I cook. So I did not cut the vegetables. I found them ready. Do you know, today, those women, my friends who go to the supermarkets and buy vegetables packaged, that is a dream of a young man 26 years ago who dreamt of packaging the vegetables. He started packaging. He was able to send them to supermarket, the neighbors, the Nakumat, and what have you. And today it's a big business. That was a dream of that young man. And the last time I met him, he had a canter and a pickup. And he had built a house for his father. That is why we are told, listen to the young people. Don't shun them away. Don't throw the ideas away. Listen to them. Pretend you understand. Even when you don't understand, you'll be amazed what they can create. Young people, and I'm saying this because of our son here. The same with the McKinney School. My school is what it is today because of my children. When they joined me after university, they found me with just learning Vera Beauty College in Handbag. Today, Vera Beauty College is what it is because of my 4 children who have left university, having done actuarial science, having done architecture and all that. But after finishing, they have come back home and said, Mom, I can hold here, I can hold there, and I can do that and that. And today they are running the school. So our children, if we listen to them, they can learn your business. They can do things you can never think of them doing. Let us stop thinking about them as the children we saw in diapers to young people who can have great ideas. And that problem of depression, of alcoholism and all that, it will end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. So I'll give the panelists 1 minute each so that we can give to the next panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Mami, for that great insight. You know, it's the same thing we say, you know, in life, everyone is unique. And let's not treat children or young people as lump sum. Let's go depth into each of their lives. And that's important. You know, it's a growth line we have for them. And let me clarify that mentorship is a journey, is not an event. It takes years for you to see the fruits of mentorship. Let's be patient in the process of young people. And that's why you have to listen to them a lot. And that's why I said the paradigm shift is into us adults. The onus is not on the young people. It's much more on us who have gone through life, and we can be able to see how best we can support them. So let's look at mentorship as a process. And I think there are many organizations doing mentorship, but what type of mentorship are you doing also? I always say in mentorship with young people, you walk shoulder to shoulder. I'll use it as an example. You walk shoulder to shoulder with them, you know, shoulder to shoulder. My shoulders, yes, but we are shoulder to shoulder. And as a mentor, always don't go ahead of young people. Always try to let them be ahead of you slightly, and you are following them. That is a mentorship. An elephant teaches its children where to lick the salt, and they'll never forget for many years to come. Are you taking your young people to lick the salt, which they'll never forget? That's a good question. Thanks, Sita. That's a good one. So let's take that as a critical composition of ourselves. And let me come back to my friend who raised a very important question, that what are the policies in this country are strong. And I think Kenya produces the best policies in almost everything, even in the youth policy. And I know the youth agenda did a lot of work on this, and also the ministry has that. The question is, where is the voice of the youth in that policy? Who sits to decide what to implement in that policy? Let me give you a very simple example. In our schools, who sits to make the school rules? Who sits to make the school rules? Please answer me. Who makes the school rules? The teachers, is it? Who implements them? Who evaluates them? Where is the voice? And that's why our schools child-centered, or they are adult-centered. Why is laughing in a classroom a mistake that takes you home as a student? I wish this day was longer, but we have a bit more to talk about in the coming days. So my friend, let's talk about that, during tea, and look at how can we do this more. But the policies are there. And I think the voice of the young people is not there. And young people don't sit there. They lack mentorship. But I think the rest of the conversation of what can be done is important. But let me conclude by saying, in this country, or I think around the world most of the time, but in Kenya specifically, do we have youth development facilitators? Do we have specifically youth development facilitators or youth development workers? We have social workers. we do not have specifically people who can focus on young people and journey with them, and that's their specialty. We need that so that young people can have adults who can accompany them, who can support them from Mashinani. What we have in Mashinani at the moment are the youth officers, sports officers. But have they been trained? Are they competent enough to be able to have the need for young people? To be a young person facilitator is not just by choice of going to school, it's a choice of the heart. That's important. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And as we finish up, to you, Mr. Joseph, in 1 minute.
Okay. Before I answer the question on the private public schools, I want to commend the founder of Vera Beauty School. And I'm very familiar with the institution and the organization. Kudos, but I didn't know the backstory. And I think many of us didn't. And congratulations. Just to relate to you, one time I took a flight from Nairobi to Kisumu, and the captain, when he introduced himself as, my name is Dr., or he said, Captain Dr. So-and-so. I think his name was Odede. And when we arrived, I was with my wife, and I asked, my wife knew him, and so I was introduced to him. And I asked him, why, you said you're Captain Doctor. I said, I didn't know that doctors fly planes. And he laughed and he told me that he had always wanted to be a pilot, but his parents had insisted that he does medicine. So he said he went, he did it, he got his degree, handed it over to his parents and said, now I'm going to go and learn to be a pilot. And I just thought, what a waste of time, 7 years, and nobody would listen to him. When I met him, he had been a pilot for 20 years. So he never even stepped into a hospital unless as a patient. And I think this thing about listening to the youth is a very important thing, because how many lives are we potentially destroying? And what is the economic effect and the social effects to people? When I go back to this thing about private and public schools, I think demarcating private and public schools is an unfortunate thing, in my opinion, because as we say in the education world, there might be private and public institutions, but they are all learners and they're all children, and the opportunities should be given to all of them. And the question as to whether private schools were created to create disruption, I think the answer to that is no. As Dr. here told us, I think disruption can come from anywhere. It can come from private schools, it can come from public schools. The motive for starting private schools, as I say, in our case was because we saw a gap and there's not going to be enough schools to deal with the learners, the upsurge of learners. But I think disruption can come from anywhere. We have seen some very innovative things come out of public schools with limited or no resources, and likewise. So I think we should dispel this myth of private versus public. Everybody is a learner.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause to the panel. And at this juncture, I want to invite the panelists to come down and invite Mr. Daniel Juma and Dr. Tony Devin so that we can take a team photo, and then I'll hand it back to MC. Let's appreciate them once again. Thank you. Thank you all. And I look forward to an incredible day as we continue to exchange ideas and our thought process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's appreciate the first panelist. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So with this other panel, we are going to move very fast, and let's also appreciate Sophia for moderating the session. So in this other session, we just want to make it very fast. I will not even do a recap of that particular conversation. So I would just like to invite the CEO, Global Peace Foundation Kenya, to take us through the main plenary discussion. Thank you very much. Let's appreciate Daniel.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Daniel, as you have heard, and it's my pleasure on behalf of the Global Peace Foundation to welcome all of you. Today is a beautiful day, and I think we're going to have a good time here. I think you are safer inside here, sindio? Unajua huko nje kuna maneno mengine zinaendelea. So we'd rather learn how to transform education. So in this plenary discussion, we're gonna have 4 speakers, and on behalf of the Global Peace Foundation, I will have my president, who is Dr. Tony Devine, talking later on. But before that, I want to just recognize a few stakeholders who are here. I want to recognize Oracle Academy, who will be speaking online. That is Ms. Jane Richardson, who is a Senior Director of Oracle Academy. I don't know whether she is available, but whenever she's available, I want her to go. We also have within us Mr. Dr. William Sugut, who is the Director of Education, Education Reforms and Junior Secondary Education Programs in the Ministry of Education. He's representing the PS, the Ministry of Education, right? We also have the chairperson, the Secretary General, Kenya Private Schools Association. She's also just joined us today. We have within us, we have Dr. Kelly Oluoch, who is the CEO of the Kenya Medical Training College. You know, we have our sponsors, those who have worked with us. Yesterday, I just met Wavumbizi, doing a lot of work in innovation. We have Dr. Philip Mutizia from North Carolina Central University, who is a wonderful man. I've been with him in North Carolina. You know, we have Mr. Mike Mutungi from I Choose Life Africa. We have, and I want to recognize everyone who will not be able to mention their names. So just to give us a small recap is that we came up with this program, the Transforming Education Summit, to be able to share, you know, provide a platform to share best practices on how we can make our education better. This morning, I was with Dr. Devine on KTN, and we were speaking about education. You know, if you read your Standard today, and I want to really thank our partners, Standard Media Group, who are our media partner. You know, the headline of that shows what is happening in the latest changes, you know, within the CBC curriculum. So there's a lot that is going on, but one thing that we must agree is that education is here, and every now and then we have to change with the times. So things are happening, including artificial intelligence. You know, so we must be able to change with the times, so that we are able to make education be able to solve the problems that humanity faces. And I also want to recognize also a very, very special person, Mrs. Mudeu Kasanga. This lady was the former chairperson of the Kenya Private Schools Association. We worked with her. She has been in most of our events, but now she's a very special person because I took my children to her. You know, my children are now in boarding school in her school, and I've trusted her because she's doing a lot. My son, who is 14 years old, and my daughter, who is only 12, they are now going to they're going through experiential learning, climbing mountains, going for trips and learning a lot. So right now, the children are having a lot of their social skills improved. Yeah. So just to, that was just a small recap. I will bring Dr. Tony Divine later to talk about our view on education. But to begin, I want to invite Dr. Kelly Olwach, who is the CEO of the Kenya Medical Training College. The KMTC is providing a lot of our doctors, nurses who are doing a good job internationally. UK, if you go to the US, the Kenyan nurses, those who are treating and who are being praised abroad are being trained by the KMTC. And I want Dr. Kelly Olwach to give us a few remarks. Karibu.
Thank you so much, the organizers of this summit. My name is Dr. Kelly Olwach, as has been said. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Kenya Medical Training College. Kenya Medical Training College is 96 years old, having started in 1927. And we major in training for health. The institution has 17 departments and 8 faculties, and we have up to 93 courses. So we are under the Ministry of Health rather than the Ministry of Education, basically because Kenya Medical Training College is supposed to provide human resources to address the health challenges that affect the country. Kenya Medical Training College has 74 campuses across the country. And that means that we are present in 44 out of the 47 counties in Kenya. The college majorly admits students from Form 4 who have completed Form 4, and those who come for higher diploma courses, and those who do what we call upgrading courses. Now, in the Ministry of Health's agenda for universal health coverage, KMTC plays a very pivotal role on what we call addressing the pillar of human resources for health. It produces 85% of the health workers that you see in all the health facilities, both private and public. Now, we try to address the ever-changing health landscape in the country by ensuring that we make curricula that address the emerging issues in health, including the COVID-19 challenge we had. For that purpose, the college, therefore, is very important for the economy of the country, because at the moment, we have over 60,000 students. And we do not only train for Kenya, we train for the world. And that means that our nurses will be in every hospital across the world, both in Kenya, United Kingdom, Canada, UK, US, and Australia, and other African countries. And we address the same challenges that the youth face. And I was very happy with the panelists who just came before me when they were talking about finding our whys and addressing the challenges of the youth from their perspective, not from what we think their perspective is. For that reason, we collaborate with several institutions. We collaborate with various partners. At the moment, we have a collaboration with the UNESCO and Global Peace Foundation in what we want to address in terms of addressing the mental health challenges of the youth, the gender-based violence, and HIV and AIDS pandemic in the country. We're also addressing issues to do with leadership of the youth. We know for sure that the people we produce in this institution go a long way in changing the leadership landscape country. For your information, the current PSS in the government are from KMTC, and our Minister for Health, Madam Nakumicha, is an alumni of KMTC. So it means that as we educate this youth, we are not only educating them and seeing them as what they will be tomorrow, but what they will do to change the leadership and the landscape of health in the country. So for us, it is quite important that we see our role as a transformative role in training. And what we do to do that is to make sure that we listen to the people we train, we listen to our partners, and we look at the landscape in health and in education. For that purpose, we continuously improve our services in training, we transform the way we teach, and we make sure we infuse emerging technology. And for us to be successful as an institution, we also collaborate with the industry, because we currently offer a course which is called medical engineering or biomedical engineering. And in this, we are not able to always keep up with buying the latest technology for training. And therefore, we have to always collaborate with the market and the industry players to ensure that we continuously improve the way we deliver teaching and learning in the institution. We realize that health landscape continuously changes, and therefore, as a trainer for the majority of health workers in the country, we must always keep tandem with the changing technology, with the changing practices, and ensuring that we provide the best training for the country and for the region and for the world. I want to thank the organizers. I want to thank Global Peace Foundation for organizing this and inviting us for this forum. Thank you so much, and I'm grateful. I'm Dr. Kelly Oluoch, the CEO, MTC.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Let's give him an applause again. Thank you. So moving very fast, I'm going to go to Oracle Academy. We have a partnership with Oracle Academy, to train our educators on computing skills. And the Global Peace Foundation Kenyan office is an Oracle Academy office. So I would now like to that are, working with us to promote, the latest digital skills, things like coding, Python, so that our kids can be able to keep up with the latest trends in technology. So we have nurtured this relationship, and Dr. Divine was the one who signed the first MOU with Oracle. And I think that partnership has grown and grown and will keep growing. So Miss Jane Richardson, the floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
She's joining us via Zoom. Yeah.
Yes, hello, I'm here. Hello?
Hello? Yeah.
Hello, can you
Please
hear me?
proceed.
Yes, hello.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, and thank you so much for inviting me to attend the Transformation Education Summit. I'm Jane Richardson. I'm the Senior Director for Oracle Academy for Europe, Middle East and Africa. And I'm based in Edinburgh in Scotland. So I would much rather be with you in Kenya, and it's been over 8 years since I actually had the opportunity to visit Kenya, so I would much like to come back again. I would also like to thank everyone in the Global Peace Foundation for our wonderful long-standing partnership with Oracle Academy and the fantastic work you do for education and for your students. It is so very much appreciated. Within Oracle, our customers are using our technologies in a real life business environment, in government, in healthcare, in the oil and gas sector. And in fact, when we talk about technology education, we're not talking about technology for students that are going to go into the industry per se. We're talking about students that will possibly use those skills in very range of industry sectors. So in Oracle Academy, we want to make sure that we are providing academic faculty and their students with the same technologies that are used by our customers across a vast range of industry sectors, and that our faculty are enabled to teach in the classroom. I think educators around the world have for a long time been discussing the need to rethink how we educate our future generations. The years during and since the global pandemic has provided an opportunity for us all to think about and to question what we need to teach and what careers are we really preparing our young people for. Most students in educational institutions today are from a generation that has grown up in a truly globalized world, a generation defined by technology. And they know that they may go into careers in the future that may not exist today. We are also very aware of the need for economies to develop their digital technologies for government, for business, for their citizens. And where does this start? Well, this starts with education and schools and universities providing the foundational learning that will provide their students with a platform to grow their knowledge and be exposed to the technologies used in business and in their life today. And I think it's also key that we recognize, particularly in the technology industry, the gender gap in STEM studies. And Oracle Academy has always had at its core a commitment to diversity and inclusion and providing access to all. And it was very nice to see in the groups that were introducing themselves this morning a strong representation of women in education. And it's something that we are very much keen to encourage in all that we do. Oracle Academy has long been an advocate for technology learning. We have a 25-year commitment to work with educators by providing our members with free access to relevant and accessible online learning technologies. We have experience in delivering virtual classes of supported self-study for faculty, which gives you and your teachers the continuing professional development opportunities that you need at a time and pace that suits your very busy schedules. Oracle Academy is a philanthropic program. It gives our members and partners the technology to educate in a new way to enable their students to become the creators of the future. How do we do this? We have a state-of-the-art, member-focused teaching and learning portal, the Member Hub, which provides our faculty with a one-stop shop to access free Oracle Academy teaching content, curriculum in the areas of Java programming, application development, data science, applied database, database design, and of course, machine learning and artificial intelligence, much in the news these days. Our program gives the educators that we work with the flexibility to create customized learning paths for their students by merging their own curriculum into those of the Oracle Academy resources to create unique learning experiences for students that meet their academic and career path objectives. It also gives access to Oracle technologies and application software. And in fact, there are over 250 different learning resources within the Oracle Academy Member Hub for faculty and students to access. So I was asked today to speak a little bit about cloud, something that's very much in everyone's mind these days, and cloud infrastructure. So I just want to take a small walk through what is cloud and how we can support your students and faculty in learning. So Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, is a platform of cloud services that enable developers to build and run a wide range of applications in a highly available, high-performance environment. It leads computing with a deep and broad platform of cloud services that enables our customers and our partners to build and run a wide range of applications in a scalable, secure, highly available, and high-performance environment. And we are delighted to be able to share that with our academic partners and our faculty so that students can now learn about cloud from one of the cloud leaders. Oracle Academy has now been set up to provide all our faculty and students with an anytime, anywhere classroom where they can develop their skills within the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Oracle Academy members can take advantage of free Oracle Academy Cloud program, which provides access to their students and educators to use the classroom for teaching and learning and to prepare students to become tomorrow's technology innovators and leaders. You and your students can learn, explore, build, and develop in the cloud with an easy sign up and with all the additional learning materials provided through your Oracle Academy membership. And knowing that infrastructure and maintenance is often an issue within the university environment, our teachers can now enjoy a one-time classroom setup, no maintenance needed. Educators can easily provision student accounts and classes can be up and running in a cloud environment without the need to download, install, maintain software or databases. So our member educators and their students can access always free Oracle Autonomous Database. We provide our students with compute virtual machines, 2 of them. In fact, it's basically like giving each of your students 2 new computers to use in the cloud. And we give you all the essential building blocks to develop and create applications on top of the Oracle Autonomous Database. We have set this program up to make sure that our students can quickly start to learn about new cloud services and technologies, Linux, machine learning, SQL, Java, Python, just to name a few. And we provide free access to all the developer tools, such as the Oracle Application Express, Apex, as you may know it as, which is designed for low-code web application development. And this is a skill set that is transformative across all industries. So as I said before, some of these skill sets are not just designed to take your students into the technology sector, they're designed to take them into any sector that uses technology as the core of their business. And Apex, for example, is a skill set that stands alone, very much in demand right now across the world, and can provide a strong career path for your students. The Oracle Academy Cloud Program also gives access to developer tools and labs and projects that allow students to have practical application of theoretical concepts. And this is paired with comprehensive curriculum, projects, labs, startup guides, everything that a student and faculty need to explore and develop in the full functionality of the Oracle Cloud infrastructure. We have 2 courses that are available to all of our students, Cloud Foundations curriculum for students who wish to learn concepts and terminology in the 4 key areas of learning in the cloud: core infrastructure, database, solutions, platform and edge, and governance and administration, sometimes referred to as cybersecurity. And we also provide curriculum that goes deeper into those various core concepts for students that want to progress and advance their learning in a professional manner. So we are very much employed in providing students and faculties with the skills and the tools that they need to develop their career learning in the future. And we really are supportive of all the partnerships that we have developed across Africa, and particularly with Global Peace Foundation, to make sure that those learning and skills reach the students that will benefit from them. But more than that, we want to provide our faculty and the teachers with the support that they need to deliver this learning into the classroom. So everything that we do is supported by our instructors, who provide direction for getting started with the curriculum for our faculty through online events, and are able to offer expertise and coaching as needed through scheduled office hours. And these are live trainers. These are not videos. These are not chatbots. These are live trainers that are available to our faculty all the time to be able to give them advice on how to teach these concepts in the classroom. So very quickly, in essence, we can provide faculty and their students with all the building blocks that they need to teach, learn, explore, and develop in the cloud, free of charge. So what are you waiting for? I heard one of the groups gave themselves the name DARE today. So I dare you to get involved with us and take advantage of these tools that will provide your students with the skills that they need moving forward into their careers outside of their academic learning. I would encourage you to explore our cloud program and curriculum, but also, more importantly, network with your peers to see how these technologies are being used, not just by our customers and our businesses, but also by our very strong faculty members who engage with us on a regular basis. I sincerely hope that moving forward, your students can take these tools with them on their journey out of education into careers, whatever industry sector they choose to join. And from what I've been hearing this morning, I'm very sure that they are in very safe hands with you. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about this today. And I do hope that you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you. Please give some applause. Thank you very much, Ms. Jane Richardson, and we look forward to future collaborations with Oracle Academy. And also I urge you all of you, to start learning about these things. You're not too old to be a clouds engineer. You can learn these things today. And do you know how much a clouds engineer earns? The least that a clouds engineer earns. Who knows? Who has an idea? The money. So, I mean, if you become a clouds engineer, this is what I had during one of the Oracle training. The salary, the least salary is between $5,000 to $10,000. And it goes all the way. That is 1 million Kenya shillings to 12 million Kenya shillings. So if you're a clouds engineer, you'd be earning almost 3 or 4 times more than the president. Okay, so it's not too late to be a clouds engineer. And thanks to Oracle Academy, you have this training, we have these tools. You can learn at your own private time and have your own side hustles, where you can have extra income. So thank you so much, Jane, and we look forward to future collaboration. At this juncture, I want to recognize the arrival of the national chairman of the Kenya Private Schools Association, Mr. Charles Ochome. Can you just rise and wave to the congregation? Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us today. At this juncture, we have 2 more speakers. I will welcome now the Vice President of the Global Peace Foundation in charge of education, Dr. Tony Devine. He traveled all the way from Seattle, Washington to join us today. So he's going to give the keynote address, which is going to be an overview of our education work here and why transforming education. After that, you will invite the guest of honor today, Mr. William Sugud, to be able to give the message from the PS and officially open this session. So welcome, Dr. Devine.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Hello, everybody. Hey, can we get the slides up there, Samuel? Give me, oh, here we go. Awesome. So great to be back in Kenya. The last time I was here was right before COVID in 2019. I used to come like every year, maybe twice a year. And I missed Kenya, right? So I'm so happy to be back and so glad to see so many old friends and meet many new ones, right? Over the last few days. So really want to thank our great partner, the Ministry of Education. They've been our partner from the beginning, from 2010. So this is a very special partnership. I was speaking to William on the side here this morning, and I was so happy to hear from him how welcoming the ministry is to stakeholders, right, to fill in the gaps. And, that's actually a really wonderful thing. Some ministries are very closed, right? But actually this ecosystem approach is very, very important. And I really want to appreciate Standard Media Group, our great partner, Oracle Academy, longtime partner, and many, many other partners who are listed here, too many to mention. So our focus here today is transforming education. Next slide. I was at the Transforming Education Summit that was hosted by the United Nations last year. It went on for 3 full days, right before the General Assembly. And, it convened ministries of education from across Africa, from across the world, international agencies, university researchers, you name it, like every possible stakeholder group, corporations as well were there. And the reason that the UN convened this was due to the crisis in education, especially following COVID. And they wanted to elevate education to the top of the political agenda. And really, we're behind. We're behind in terms of creating a quality education, and to elevate that educational agenda to mobilize action, to mobilize solidarity, to find solutions, right, to the problems around us. Next slide. So oftentimes in these kind of convenings, right, and this was the case also in that summit, discussions often tend to gravitate very, very quickly to systems, to structures, structural issues, and so on, right? And all of the things that you can see here on the slide, right, like access, personalized learning approaches, curriculum, compensation, and you name it. And now we have AI going on, gamification, there's all kinds of new things going on, digital technologies, computer science. These are all very important. These are real things that educators and educational systems must deal with, and we have to solve these very real problems. However, what's missing most of the time, right, is the essence of transformation, right? We talk about everything except the essence of it, right? So what is the essence of transformation? Next slide. The essence of transformation is all about transforming people, right? So we must start with transforming the educators and the educational stakeholders. We have many educational stakeholders in the room today, right? So we have to start with our own transformation before we can actually even dream about transforming the students, right? When educators and the adults are working on their own transformation on a day-by-day basis, then that is what's going to actually transform the culture in classrooms, in schools, to make them engaging, to make them such that students love being at school. In fact, during COVID, can you believe it? Students miss being in school. That was an interesting phenomenon. Students miss school, right? And then we can start working to transform the systems and the structural issues. We don't start there. We have to start with human transformation. Then our students, right, who are always watching the educators, we learned this in the first panel, they can be holistically transformed and they can be truly future ready. Next slide. So when we talk about the essence of transformation, it starts by working on yourself, right? And each person has really infinite value to create an extraordinary life full of purpose and meaning and happiness. So it starts by knowing yourself and being clear about your ideas, beliefs, values, habits, and mindsets. So today, ideas are becoming more successful investor. He said that the best you can do, right, is actually invest in transforming yourself, because that is something you have direct control over. That's where the real value creation can be created. And the more we transform ourselves on a continuous basis, the more things around us can actually start to transform. So next. So I want to present the conclusion of this presentation right now, right? I'll highlight a few items as we go along. So I want to share with you a 12-point paradigm shift to transforming education. Not 3 points, not 6, 12, right? But I'll go through them very quickly here. Right? We talk about everything else under the sun, but character, and I'll explain what it is a little later, right? It's actually the antidote to corruption. So, we're here in Kenya. Kenya aspires to be a middle-class economy, right? By 2030, maybe 2040, right? And it cannot achieve that when there's corruption going on. It's the elephant in the room, right? So the antidote to that is character development. Second, we need new types of leadership at all levels. And here we're talking about moral and innovative leadership. It was actually announced for the first time ever in the world here in Kenya, Nairobi, 13 years ago in 2010 at the Global Peace Convention hosted by the president of Kenya at that time. And this is different from self-serving and transactional leadership. Number 3, we need to ramp up on altruism and dial down self-interest, right? Self-interest and how that has become dominant is actually preventing growth and development. So we need to ramp up altruism. Next slide. The next one is the holistic development of our students versus the current preoccupation with cognitive development, right? 5 is educating for a life versus education only for a living. So education for a life. 6, making a contribution to society, to national transformation and civilization. Next slide. Creating great relationships, trust, empathy, collaboration, communication. Relationships are very important. And we're relational beings, actually, in essence. The next one is developing transferable skills. So the Kenyan competency-based curriculum that was introduced in 2017 has actually put a spotlight on the importance of transferable skills. That's a really good thing, right? We're talking about creativity, entrepreneurship, resilience, value creation, being a problem solver, than being a problem identifier, right? One thing I want to say about skills, skills are value neutral. These competencies can be used for a good or a bad purpose, right? That's why they need to be driven by values. I really appreciate and like the emphasis that McKinney schools put on value creation, right? The value curriculum, they needs to be formed by that. Next. Unlocking human potential. We have unlimited human potential. Our educators should be unlocking this, right? There is unbelievable talent in our classrooms and schools. Next is a growth mindset, which needs continuous development. And, here in Kenya and in Africa, we need many, many more entrepreneurs. There's not enough traditional jobs. Startup Africa is going to be running a huge competition, starting this summer, going to the end of the year, on nurturing entrepreneurs and ideas right from schools. However, we need new types of entrepreneurs today. Entrepreneurs with character versus entrepreneurs. Let me ask you a question. Let's pretend for a second here that all of you are investors, that you all have 10,000 shillings to invest in a new startup, right? And let's say this Startup Africa competition is now over and we have 10 finalists, that are going to show up later today. 9 of them, right, are the top ranking finalists, right? 1 to 9. Number 10 is the 10th one, right? The 10th that came in priority order. And let's say this guy's name is Sam, right? The first guy, Brian, right, the top finalist, has the best ideas. He has a PhD in computer science, right? Super smart guy, right? But the investors, you guys, you did a little bit of extra due diligence work. You actually found out, you did some background on these 10 finalists. You kind of discovered that, they have questionable backgrounds, right? Regarding, possibly they may take a bribe. I'm not quite sure. I don't know how honest they're going to be. But Sam, the 10th one, his ideas were not the super best, but he had character. They found out that this guy is really reliable. He's honest. He will not take a bribe, right? So let me ask you, out of these 10, who are you going to invest your 10,000 shillings into? Sam. Only the Ministry of Education is investing in Sam, but the rest of you will invest into Brian, right? Is that right? I know it's not true, right? You're just shy. Yeah, it's quite obvious, right? Because Investors invest not in ideas, but in people. In people. That's the point we're making today. This is all about people, right? It's not about systems. It's not even about ideas. It's about people. That's the center of it all, okay? And then the application of knowledge, not the acquisition of knowledge, for value creation and problem solving. So next. So when I look at I travel, I have the great honor to travel around the world, right? Over the last several decades, I meet with ministries of education around the world. I meet with great educators and so on. But when I look at the global education system, it is not like, it's out of sync with the real world, right? So still the great emphasis is on the transmission of knowledge and the acquisition of knowledge. There is less emphasis put on skills cultivation. There is less on relationship, and there's almost none on character development, right? So next. So why is this an issue, right? Well, it's an issue more than ever before in 2023, right? We're at a pivot point right now. The world is changing at a crazy rapid pace. So there's studies from Oxford and Harvard stating that over the next 15 years, 45% of all existing jobs will disappear. So how can you educate for this kind of future, imminent future in front of us? The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, just in May 2023, said that nearly 25% of all jobs are set to be disrupted in the next 5 years alone, right? So why is this happening? Because it's getting replaced by AI. We didn't even know what AI was a couple of years ago. Now it's all the talk, right? Robotics, automation, nanotechnology, algorithms, and so on, right? Let's look at the rate of how knowledge is doubling. 123 years ago in 1900, knowledge was doubling every 100 years. In 1945, it was doubling every 25 years. And now in 2022, it's doubling every 12 hours. So think of it like this. By the time your students eat breakfast in the morning, and by the time they come home at 7 a.m., by the time they come home and eat dinner at 7 a.m., and they come home and eat dinner at 7 p.m., the world's knowledge has doubled. So does it make sense that we just keep transmitting more and more knowledge at this rate of increase? Something has to shift, right? So the current global education system is inadequate for the modern world and reality. It's kind of a joke going around, right? It says that 21st century kids are being taught by 20th century adults using a 19th century curriculum on an 18th century calendar. So we kind of laugh at this, but the irony of it is that it's actually true, right? So this is education that's barely fit for a living. In fact, employers are constantly having to re-educate new employees because when they graduate from our schools, they're not job ready, actually, even on that basic criteria. Next. So, the current education system is only about partial human development. It's just focusing on the mental side, right? And even coming up short on that one. Next, when we look at human beings, when we look at the students in front of us, the educators who are teaching them, we're holistic beings. We have other dimensions just in addition to our cognitive dimension, mental dimension. We have a physical dimension. Do we have some coaches in the room here today? Yeah, coaches, okay. Sports coaches and so on, that's awesome. We need those guys. Also, we have an emotional dimension, which is in the realm of relationships. And most importantly, we have a moral dimension. This is the most important dimension that we have of all. So all of these dimensions holistically need to be cultivated, right, in our education system. And it is not just by cognitive based. We have to focus on experiential, more experiential learning, right? So next. So if I was to give an image of what the future of transformative education should look like, it would look like this. The foundation would be character. And I'll explain what character is in a second. It's character. Next is relationships, the ability to learn great relationships. On top of that is skills. So relationship is guided by character. Skills are also guided by character. And then finally, the application of knowledge, not just the acquisition of it, is also guided by character, right? So this is the image of a transformed education system, right? And that's why, like in Global Peace Foundation, since the beginning, since 2010, in addition to, doing convenings like the Transforming Education Initiative, we also have the Character and Creativity Initiative. We've been basically the only ones that have been emphasizing character, right? And I think now we've reached the junction where people are starting to actually take this very, very seriously. This is the critical value add. Next. So character, next slide. Character is foundational. So in today's world, less orientation comes to you from the outside and more has to come from yourself. Andreas Scheichler, good friend of mine, who is the director of the Directorate of Education and Skills at OECD, says that learning is no longer about teaching something, but helping you build a reliable moral compass to help you find your way through this complex, volatile, and ambiguous world, right? So next. So let me actually go a little bit deeper on what we mean by character. So character is not something that's operating in isolation. It is actually aligned with our conscience. We're the only species that has a conscience. Do any of you have dogs at home? A pet dog or a cat or something like this? In America, everyone has a dog. Only a few people. Okay. Does your dog have a conscience? No. Doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. Only humans have this faculty. It's special to us, right? And most people are unaware that we have it, okay? We need to be members of the Wide Awake Club here, right? We do have this. It's a real thing, right? And that's also connected to spiritual consciousness. It's higher human consciousness. So character is not in isolation. It is linked to our conscience, and our conscience is linked to higher spiritual consciousness. Next. Just explain this really briefly, okay? So when we talk about spiritual consciousness, this is the realm that's rooted in universal principles and values, like the dignity of human life, freedom and, freedom and responsibility, human rights, and so on. And it is these principles and values that give purpose, meaning, and relevance to the individual, the family, the nation, and the world. So then our conscience, right, linked to spiritual consciousness, is our moral compass. So this is where we seek goodness, righteousness, truth, and love, right? And, our conscience, unfortunately, has been bruised and battered. We've left our conscience down over and over and over again. And that's why we have to make effort to calibrate it. Our conscience needs to be calibrated, right? That's intentional work. And then our character is simply the manifestation of our conscience. It shows up in our habits, behaviors, and actions. When a person serves others helps, and when a teacher helps their student, or stands at the door and greets them and welcomes them into the classroom, right? And sees them as a holistic person, right? That teacher is acting on this impulse from the conscience to do good. So that teacher is a teacher of character. They're modeling character. I could give many examples like this. So can all of you here too, right? But our character needs development. So the character and conscience work hand in hand. I'm going to come back in October, and I'm going to do a 3-day workshop on this stuff, right? So if any of you who are interested in it, let our team know about it, okay? Next. So the work we have to do, and I'm talking about our educators here, right? And all of us, is when we look at character, it is derived from an ancient Greek word called character. It means to engrave or to sharpen. So what's going on here is that we're in a process to sculpt our character, right? By doing the right thing, continuously heading in the right direction, right? And it's important. This is intentional daily effort, and we have to make it a priority because the value add it provides is significant. It is not small, it is significant. Next. And go next again. I want to share this quote, right, from John Wooden. He was the coach at the University of California in Los Angeles. He said, be more concerned with your character than your next slide, is really about developing our students to be mature individuals. Then they can go out, this is educating for a life. They can actually go out and raise a good family. And then through that, we can actually have a peaceful society and nation and a prosperous civilization. Next. Let's go next again. And next again. I want to talk about educators for a second here. So being an educator, being a teacher, being a professor is more than a job. And I understand, right? I've been in some discussions this morning, and even we had this interview this morning as well, that our educators are not getting compensated enough, right? So this is something that needs to get fixed, of course. But even in spite of that, becoming an educator or teacher, it is more than a job, it's a mission. It's probably one of the most important professions out there, right? Because an educator, a good teacher, can actually touch the hearts and minds of their students, leading them on a path, right, to contribute to the world, to society, and so on. And let's look at this quote here from Bob Talbert. He's a journalist. Teaching kids to count is fine, but teaching them what counts is best. And then John Wooden, who I spoke about before, also echoes this point, right? That the teaching profession is probably the most important one. So let's go to, because of time, let's go to the next slide and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Okay. So I just want to focus here on why we're here today, right? So we have a diverse group of stakeholders here, which is absolutely wonderful, right? We have some coaches here. Coaches are very important, right? Especially sports coaches, because this is truly experiential learning for the cultivation of character, teamwork, and so on. We need them at the table, right? Also, faith leaders are very important because they understand about values, about character, right? And I understand that many schools here in Kenya were founded by religious organizations, and that religious leaders are on the boards of these schools. So we want to invite them to be here at the table. They have an important contribution to make. Also, parents. The number one partnership we should have is the teacher-parent partnership, right? This should be like, essential, right? Because parents are the primary moral educator of our students, and teachers are just an extension of that, actually, right? And it's great having the corporations like Oracle and Microsoft, who are going to be here today, giving input on the kind of employees that they are looking for And I'm telling you right now, they're not looking for students who are scoring high in final exams. They don't care about that. What they really care about is, are you reliable? Can we trust you? Are you going to take care of our clients, right? Our customers? It's these character and skill questions is what they are seeking. You can ask them, they will tell you straight out, okay? So in the ecosystem approach, right? This is bringing together public, private, and social stakeholders, right? Of all different types together, and not, to get us to move from isolated work and isolated impact to work towards collaborative and to collective impact, so that we can actually quickly make a breakthrough, right, in education here in Kenya, in East Africa, on the continent as well. Next one. Include here. So education for African Renaissance. This idea of an African Renaissance was actually spoken about at a recent Global Peace Leadership Conference by our chairman in Uganda in 2018. And this is an African Renaissance by Africans for Africans. Why? Because Africa has the largest youth population in the world. Most of the developing countries are aging populations. Investing a massive amount of the budget into our young people, into values and traditional cultures that are under attack right now. I would guide you to hold on to those with dear life, right? Do not let these go, right? And I do understand, right? In Vision 2030, you actually put a priority on national values. That's a great saying. And you also have the natural resources. So this Renaissance has to be enlightened by. So there was a couple of great things happened a few hundred years ago. There was the Renaissance and the Enlightenment, right? So I'm using this word enlightened very intentionally here. It has to be a new type of enlightenment. Enlightenment by character and moral and innovative leadership. Enlightenment by creating pathways to national transformation and to contributing to the advancement of civilization. My understanding is that Africa is the cradle of human civilization. Is that right? We have to protect this civilization. It is tender, right? We're the only conscious species in the universe that we know of. I don't think there's aliens out there. It's us. It's just us, folks, right? So we have to not take our civilization for granted, and especially here on this continent. And to conclude here, at the end of the day, it's all about the students, right? That is the ultimate goal here, right? Preparing our students to prepare to create a peaceful and flourishing 21st century civilization. Michael was telling me yesterday, right? By 2050, 1 in 4 people on Earth are going to be Africans, not African Americans, but from the continent of Africa. 1 in 4. That's in what is it, 27 years from now? That is the entire school population that's in our school systems right now, from kindergarten through college. That's all of them that are going to be leading the continent in 27 years' time, right? So the question we have here is, what kind of influence will they have? Will it be a good one? Or will it be not a good one? We hope, right, by taking some of these ideas we're discussing here today in this conference, that we will put urgent action to make this outcome, that this will be an amazing, good influence, right? So students and educators, not just the students and educators, with a strong foundation of good character and moral and innovative leadership can harness their creative ingenuity to bring about transformative change in every single sector. We had a presentation from a hospital here today, right? The healthcare sector needs to be transformed. The education system, the whole lot of it needs to be transformed, right? So we can create that, you know, a prosperous future. Anyway, today, because of limited time, we only could share a few, like, you know, top line ideas on these ideas, right? But as I said, I'll be back in October. We're going to do a 3-day in-depth workshop to unpack all of this and to discuss it and find out how we can actually, you know, how this can help us, right, to move forward along with all of your fantastic efforts, right, and commitment to transforming the future through transforming education. Thank you very much for your time here today. Appreciate it a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you give him another clap? So that is Dr. Tony Devine. He has a lot in education. So sometimes I just copy what he says and I say them, and people think I'm also a doctor. So, you know, but I just copy his brain. So I would encourage you guys to communicate with him, make friends with him, especially educators. You have a lot to learn from Dr. Tony Devine. He has a PhD in education. Okay. Thank you so much. So next, finally, and to summarize this session, I would now want to call upon Dr. William Sugut, HSC, who is the Director of Educational Reforms and Junior Secondary Education Programs in the Ministry of Education. He's here representing the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, and he's going to officially open this Transforming Education Summit. So welcome, Dr. Sugut. Please clap for him.
Thank you very much. Dr. Tony Devine, who is the Vice President of Education, Global Peace Education, Mr. Juma Homondi, the team that is here, including our friend Mudeu Kasanga, whom I worked with in some other assignment, Professor Mutisha, I think was just stepped out. The partners who are here, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Or is afternoon? It's still morning. Well, it's afternoon. So good afternoon. My name is Sugut William, the Director of Education at the Ministry Headquarters, and I've come to represent the Principal Secretary Basic Education, Dr. Belio Kipsang. The PS wanted to be here with you, but because of commitments, he asked me to represent him in this particular conference. And therefore, I will be able to do exactly that. It is a pleasure being here. And I will go to his speech. In the process, I will also be making 1 or 2 remarks as I go through the speech. So first and foremost, I wish to really thank you because of the invitation of the peers to this particular function, which in itself is very important. It is therefore my honor and privilege to speak at the 2nd edition of the Transforming Education Summit, organized by the Global Peace Education Kenya in collaboration with the Standard Group, PLC. I also wish to take this opportunity to recognize the Oracle Academy, Kesho Kenya, UNICAF, Kenya, EdTech East Africa, World Vision Kenya, Bridge International Academies, and I choose Live Africa, I think led by Michael here, for partnering with the organizers to make this event a success. I am impressed by your dedication and commitment in the role you have continued to play in transforming education in Kenya. The Ministry of Education is familiar with the good work that the Global Peace Education Foundation is doing in Kenya in the sector of education. And I take cognizance of their innovative programs in education, such as the Great Places to School Initiative, Transforming Education Initiative, Character and Creativity, and the LibHubs initiatives. These programs are key in realizing education outcomes with regard to issues of transition, access, sustainability, not to mention even issues of retention. Remember, as a country, we are very keen on issues of access, issues of retention, issues of transition. And that is why more often than not, you see even our field officers, both from the Ministry of Education and from the Ministry of Interior, mop up children to ensure that they are in school. Because we insist on 100% transition from grade 6 to grade 7 now, and from class 8 to Form 1, because we know that education is very important for them to be able to change their lives in this country. The Global Peace Foundation, Kenya's commitment to education as a tool for peace building demonstrates that education remains the most powerful weapon for sustainable peace and development. And therefore, what we are saying is, it is important for us to be able, therefore, to take these and capture what it is that is important for us to do, so that our institutions of basic education, for that instance, are peaceful, so as to be able to benefit out of the programs that are being put in place by government. The Standard Group, on its part, has spearheaded the newspaper in education program, which encourages a reading culture among our students. And I'm grateful to their continued support of education initiatives such as this one. Foundation, the Global Peace Foundation Kenya has impacted over 50,000 learners from 50 schools across the 47 counties. The Ministry of Education, therefore, through the Directorate of Quality Assurance and Standards, establish quality standards in basic education institutions. And therefore, it's our belief that the partners, work closely with the Directorate to be able to ensure that the standards are maintained in basic education institutions, and particularly as you give your support. Transforming Education Initiative, Character and Creativity Initiatives, and the LibHubs are innovations or innovative ways of encouraging our schools to willingly comply with such standards. The ministry, therefore, welcomes collaborations from the academia, our other colleagues in government, the private sector, and civil society in promoting the realization of the Sustainable Development Goal number 4 on promoting quality and inclusive education. And then, of course, as you are all aware, it is important for us to understand that we are also very keen on Vision 2030. Under the 3 pillars, the social pillar is very critical on education and training. And unless we take care of our youth in terms of education, it will be very difficult to be able to achieve what it is that we are planning to achieve. Because as my brother, Dr. Tonya said, the youth is a very vital resource for us as a country. It is therefore important for us also to understand that with regard to quality assurance, we need to understand that currently we are moving to an institutional-based quality assurance, where we want to empower institutions to be able to ensure that they are able to maintain the standards on their own and support themselves. In this regard, the Ministry of Education will continue to collaborate with the private sector partners who have demonstrated passion for transforming education for the sake of our children. I would wish to call upon all the organizers of this summit to work closely with our various directorates in the ministry so as to be able to achieve that target. I think we have been able to exchange cards with a number of partners here. And we want to believe that our collaboration will not end in this conference. We should be able to get in touch thereafter and see what it is that we need to do. I wish to shed a bit of light on where we are now, particularly knowing that we are now on the competency-based curriculum. Somebody has taken us through the memory lane, and you understand that as a country, we came from the 7423 system, we went to 844, and we are now on 2663 system of education, where the learners will spend 2 years in pre-primary, they will spend 6 years in primary, spend 3 years in junior school, and 3 years in senior school, before transiting to the university for 3 years, depending on the course that they are pursuing. The vision of CBC, which is a competency-based curriculum, is to be able to come up with a citizenry that is engaged, empowered, and ethical. If you like, you can call them the 3 E's. That is engaged, empowered, and ethical. And I think there is an aspect that Dr. Tony did emphasize on the ethical part. It is not enough to be engaged. It is not enough to be empowered. It is also more important to be ethical in what it is that we will do. CBC typically encourages that we nurture every learner's potential. We believe strongly that every learner has a talent, has a potential, and therefore the responsibility of those of us who are in education, those of us who are in teaching, and the various partners who are adults is to be able to nurture, to identify and nurture the talent of every child, so that we do not have situations where children move to courses for the sake of their parents. So if a child is going to please the parent because the parent has dictated that they are supposed to be able to do a course for them, then you will get to a situation where you are paying fees twice. You pay for yourself, for the child to get your certificate in medicine, and you pay for the child to be able to do a course in tourism, for instance. In that case, it is also important for us to understand that under CBC, there are certain competencies that we do expect the children to be able to gain, irrespective of the pathway they would wish to take. In that case, then we do emphasize communication and collaboration, which is very, very important. We also emphasize critical thinking and problem solving. It is important for us to understand that imagination and creativity is a very important competency that we expect children to gain. Citizenship is very important. And I think this is where we need to put a lot of emphasis. And I'm mentioning all this because we do expect our partners, therefore, to be able to look at what it is that we are talking about, so that you can be able to loop yourself into a relevant section on what it is that you do, so that we do not have duplications in the process. You know, the challenge has been in the past where if a farmer grows beans, because beans has a lot of market in some place, everybody in that village grows beans. So we would want to let you know that it's important to look at that. So citizenship is something key to us, learning to learn, so that we do not just need to go the traditional way, that the teacher is the only source of knowledge. We are talking about learning to learn. Self-efficacy is also very, very important. The ability for the children to know that it is their abilities that can take them to various levels. They are in charge of shaping their destiny, and therefore they need to be guided. And therefore digital literacy, again, is an area that is very, very important, and that we need therefore to be able to look at that. As we work on this and look at the curriculum that is in place, it is also important for our partners to understand that there is still a fertile ground with regard to issues of performing arts. Currently, we are offering a curriculum where the teachers of performing arts are very few. Issues of visual arts, issues of music, issues of home science, computer science, the foreign languages, issues of French, German, and all that. So it's important so that we are able to understand what it is that is happening, and therefore know what it is that we need to intervene in. And character development, of course, is very, very important. That's why I've talked about citizenship for a while. We are living in a competitive world that is rapidly changing. It is therefore essential for educators to be in touch with the knowledge of the current occasion so that we can be able to furnish the learners with relevant skills and knowledge required in the 21st century. I think Dr. Sonia has already given another illustration of what we are doing. And at times the question is, are we teaching ourselves or we are teaching the children? What is it that we want to show them? The problem is using ourselves as a marking scheme of what the children's potential can be able to attain. The fact that a parent did not become a medical doctor is not enough reason to force your child to medicine, because you want to fulfill your dreams in the child. But what are the dreams of that particular child? Since the vision cannot be left to the government alone, I call upon each of us to play our part as parents and educators to provide a safe, positive, inclusive, and empowering environment for our youth to be able to blossom. With initiatives like the transforming education that we have today, non-state actors complement government's efforts in advancing education. As we do this, ladies and gentlemen, it is also important for us that we, as we understand issues of inclusive education, let us move from what we have seen in the past and even think about the gifted and talented. Where do we place them? I don't know among the partners whether there is somebody who is working on the gifted and talented. I choose Africa. Where are you? He is coming. Any partner handling the gifted and talented? Eh? Yeah, you are there. Can we be able to listen to you next week at the ministry headquarters? Yeah, we really want to understand what it is that you do so that we can see how to support you, because that's an area that we have always neglected. Because what is there is the partnership that we need to see. And when you come and we ask you very difficult questions, it is because we want to build you. It is not to discourage. So you are not coming for an interview. But we want to really exchange ideas and see what it is that we can do so that we are able to work on this together and be able to do well. Ladies and gentlemen, therefore, being here should be able to create an impetus for us to be able to ensure that education provides solutions to issues that we have had in life. The more reason why people go to school is to be able to offer solutions to societal problems that otherwise would not have been solved if people had not achieved education. Therefore, on behalf of the Ministry of Education, I would like to thank all the Global Peace Education Foundation and other partners for making this event a success and for supporting government efforts in promoting quality and inclusive education. It is therefore my pleasure and privilege to declare this 2023 conference officially opened. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daktari. Thank you, Daktari. You want us to do a photo like we did? Ne? So I'll now invite those who are here, the panelists, for one photo, and then we can move to the next session. Can you move this? Yes.
Thank you. The panelists that were engaged in the main plenary session, it's now an opportunity for you to take a photo. Where's your phone? Yeah, Dr. Kelly. Yeah. They can balance. And then you can please. You know, photography. Planning it. Okay, thank you very much. Tupigie Dr. William Makofi. You know, my dad is called William, and my son is also called Liam, which is the 21st century for William. There's what Dr. Tony said, that the 21st century students are being taught by 20th century curriculum. That was Dr. William is here, and I know he'll be able to think about what needs to be done. So thank you very much. So the next phase, we want just to take a small break, and I'll call Dr. Ketch to just give us a small energizer for 2 minutes. You know, the blood needs to flow. And if we see it right now, nowadays, we really need to do exercise. And Dr. Tony also mentioned that in the 4 realms of education, physical fitness is also important. So Daktari karibu. Tumpigie makofi. So as Daktari is coming, I'll also be requesting Maweo, Isaac, and also the other team, the panelists, get prepared. We can set the stage. Thank you very much, Daktari.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I can hear one voice only there. Okay. Good afternoon, okay? I just wanted to wake you up because we're trying to get ourselves energized, right? So as has been mentioned, my name is Dr. Ketch, but also I'm Master Ketch. I have a 7th degree in martial arts. It's a unified martial arts. So just as has been mentioned a few minutes ago, I think it's Dr. William was talking about you know, talents and this kind of things, and especially, and also skills, or, you know, tapping into the talents. So I think I've done more with martial arts than with other things. So we're going to do a warm up, like for the first thing. I want us to stand up a little bit, and so I want you just relax. Relax your shoulder, just relax. And I want you to breathe out air. Just remove anything that you feel you don't need in your system. Relax and then breathe out. Just be who you are, you know, where you've been created by God. Okay, so then the next thing, I want you to breathe in through your nose, and then out through your mouth. Okay, breathe in again through your nose. As you're breathing in, try to go a little bit back through with your head. Breathe in. Breathe out. I want you to look to the right. Breathe in. Breathe out. All this do through your nose, then out through your mouth. To your left, breathe in. Breathe out. Okay, to your left, another